Hello, everybody. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining our live session. Today, we've got a very interesting story, and in a very unique way, this person reached out to me. So, we are going live today with Vatsal. And Vatsal actually DM'd us on a platform where we don't really get many messages when it comes to scores. So, he actually DM'd us on Instagram last week, and he was like, "Hey, I got a 715 just with the help of GMAT Club." And I was like, wait, what? Okay, that is an incredible score. Are you sure you did not use any other prep resources? And I don't think you did, right?
No, no, I didn't.
It was purely,
Yeah.
purely GMAT Club, and this is definitely an interesting story. I'm not gonna, give you guys any spoilers. So let's just start this debrief and jump right into the questions. So, Vatsal, thank you so much for joining today on a Sunday evening. Just quickly let us know who you are, what you do, and we'll start right away with the questions.
Sure. Thank you, Selby, firstly for inviting me here. So hi everyone, I'm Vatsal. So currently I'll explain a little bit about myself. So I'm a computer science graduate from a college called Manipal in India. Straight out of
Mm-hmm.
college, I started working as a software engineer at Microsoft. That's when I actually gave my, during my software engineering time is when I gave my first GMAT, which was an old edition GMAT. Then I took a break, and then I shifted my careers from a software engineer to a product manager. Today, I'm a product manager at Microsoft, and
Oh,
just
wow.
a couple of weeks ago is when I did my second GMAT attempt, which is my Focus Edition one. Yeah, I think that's about it from my careers aspect of it. I'm 2 years into the work experience. I prepared along with my work, and other than that, I love traveling and I love roaming around. So yeah, that's about it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, of course, I would love to know how it was like studying, especially while
Hmm.
having a full-time job. But let's
Hmm.
actually start way from the beginning. So you said you took the GMAT Classic, right? When was
Yes.
that? And how was your experience?
Yeah, so that was exactly a year ago,
Okay.
about October itself. So I gave
Mm-hmm.
the old edition where I scored a 710. I
Mm-hmm.
actually believe it was a little rushed. It was my first time I started preparing. I was getting decent enough in mocks, but I felt like, let's go and give it a shot. That's when I went
Mm-hmm.
ahead. I believe there were still some gaps in my preparation, which I needed to cover, but I had
Mm-hmm.
also a lot of things going on. And that's when I decided that maybe I'll come back later when Focus Edition was already in the
Mm-hmm.
cards and I really liked the format and I felt that let's take a break and I hope I come back stronger. So yeah,
Makes
that was my
sense.
experience with the old edition.
Nice. And what was actually your target score? Did you have that in mind, or you were like, let me just score the best, that I can?
No, I had a golden number. My golden number was 740 to 750, which is about
Nice. Okay.
685 to 695 in Focus or
Mm-hmm.
640 to
Mm-hmm.
650 in the old one. So yeah, that was my aim. The day I get that is the day I finally come up out of my GMAT preparation, which has been a while. But yeah, I'm just
Mm,
glad it's done now.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you scored more than your goal, so that's like
Exactly.
pretty top
Yeah.
notch. Awesome. And when you took the GMAT Classic, at that
Mm.
time, you again used GMAT Club completely as your
Yes.
uh, prep
Yes.
resource?
Yes.
Okay. No
Complete
other
use.
prep material.
No, I didn't. So I believe there's a great community in terms of GMAT. There's like this GMAT club has amazing amount of content out there. And this has been a debate in my mind. Should I take a prep? Should I not take a prep course? Especially when you're working
Mm,
full time, it's very tricky because you have to explore a lot. I think GMAT Club in
mm-hmm.
general has given a lot to me, and I'm very grateful for that. And the way there are so many threads, so many experts around, not just the forum, but in the YouTube as well. And they have a proper guided plan which you can follow, figure out your
Yeah.
gaps. And so, yeah, I think I never needed to. I took mocks, I kept improving. So as long as I didn't reach a ceiling is when I know that this is okay. When you reach a ceiling is that's when I can think that maybe a course helps, but I
Mm-hmm.
think there wasn't a need for something like that. So yeah,
Oh, really?
grateful.
But have you ever skimmed through a few
Yes.
prep materials out there? Like, were you inclined to take some up, or it was still purely GMAT Club?
No, definitely I skimmed through. There's some amazing reviews about the courses, and I was like, maybe I should, especially when I didn't get the right score I wanted in my old edition. I thought maybe is that the gap I want? But then I realized
Mm-hmm.
that I actually didn't, completely being honest, I didn't give my all in a way, and I could do
Mm-hmm.
better. So the day the day I said that if I give my all and I still don't get it is the day I'll maybe try for it. But I've realized
Mm-hmm.
that courses definitely is helpful for people. Maybe like I come from an engineering background, so I
Yeah.
know basics of quants is there. I've been a bit of a reader in my life as well. So it
Mm-hmm.
was not something that I had to start anything from scratch. I knew I had
Yeah.
the basic rights. I need to just fill in all my gaps and make sure the precision is at place. And that's where I
Mm.
think the entire, as I said, GMAT Club has really helped me. So it didn't come to that, but it was always an ongoing debate in my mind, for sure.
Makes sense. Of course, we're gonna go deeper into what all
Mm,
you used on the GMAT Club, like in the
yes.
forums to help with your prep.
Mm,
But you say you got a 710 in your
mm,
classic a year ago. What was
yes.
your breakdown?
Yeah, so actually, that also has a quick little story. So, as I said, I was a little rushed and I gave
Yeah.
the classic in 20 days. I gave two attempts because I was not happy with my score.
Oh.
I took a rushed attempt and I took another one. I scored 710 on both, which was again not a good decision on my part. So, I had a
Mm.
breakdown where I had a good 49 quant and a 36 verbal on my first. And on my second
Mm-hmm.
one, I had scored a 47 quant, which was a shocker because I've never scored that low in quant, and a 40 verbal. So if I had gone both the things right on the one attempt, I might have
Yeah.
been already free. But yeah, and I then realized that giving two attempts and realizing that, I was rushing into things, there's still some gaps I
Mm-hmm.
need to work on. And thus I
Mm-hmm.
needed the break as well. And during that break is when I actually did my career transition from software to PM as well. And then
Uh,
finally, when I came up fresh with a new mindset and, focusing on the focus edition, uh,
mm-hmm.
then this
Of
came
course,
true.
I think the change must have been a little different now because you prepared so rigorously in a
Yeah.
particular way for the classic, and like a year
Yes.
later, things change, and now you have to prepare things
Yeah.
differently. So that
Yes.
must have been interesting. Okay, so then a year later, you
Mm.
started the whole prep, like in a
Again.
fresh mindset. You got a
Yes.
715, and your
Mm.
breakdown of the sectional scores are actually
Mm.
mentioned right below your name. So for those who are
Yes.
interested to know that. But how did you again start your prep? What did you start
Mm.
with initially?
Yeah. So I'd say that because I had given an official old edition, one thing I was really happy was that there's no sentence correction in the new one because that was something I really
Mm-hmm.
struggled with. It was a very difficult topic to learn. So I was happy
Oh.
whenever. But definitely, I think the Focus edition was, I like the format a lot because this became much more reasoning than it was before. It was more about accuracy and reasoning.
Mm,
For my preparation, because I had already given an old, I did the same thing for the old edition. I did the same thing for the new edition. For the first 2 months, I took it light. I didn't say that I gave a lot of hours. What I did was
mm-hmm.
I went through all the resources in GMAT Club and I went through the quant videos, I went through the verbal videos. I made sure I knew all the concepts, I made some notes. Then I
Mm-hmm.
bought the official guide and I solved the questions there. The first 2 months I just took it very light. Wherever I would study an hour a day or 2 hours a day max, and I
Mm-hmm.
had work as well, and on weekends
Mm-hmm.
one like a little more. And after first 2 months of my focus prep is when I gave a mock and I scored a 665 on that mock. So that kind
Mm.
of made me realize that okay, 665 is about 720. That's where I left off from my old one. So I'm
Yeah.
at par with what I was in my last year. Now I have to
Mm-hmm.
push whatever I need to do the clutch moment to get from here to 700 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where my next part of preparation came in, where I realized, okay, I've covered all the basics. Now, how can I improve and close all the gaps and make my precision increasing?
Mm-hmm.
So I did like every topic I separately practiced. Like for quant, I did topic wise test. For verbal, I made sure that my mindset was clear. I was not doubting myself. Data insights
Mm.
gets better with content verbal. So for those 2 months, I had a fixed plan where every week I would have a plan. Then every week's end, I would take a official mock. I would realize what are my strengths and weaknesses, and I would do this
Interesting.
on repeat, on repeat, on repeat for 7 weeks, 7 mocks. And the eighth mock was actually my official exam. And that repetition
Oh.
and that mindset helped me that, it didn't feel something very new on the day of the exam because that was something I did every week. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually where I actually gave more than 2 or 3 hours a day on. I used to wake up very early, sleep very late, so because I had work, and during weekends I
Mm-hmm.
would do that, and that's how my main prep I would say was concentrated in those last 2 months of September, August and September. I'd say.
Awesome. Okay, so I like how you did it though. Like you kept repeating the same process again and again
Mm,
till you were like, okay, I feel like I've mastered
yeah,
this. finally take the test.
Hmm.
And you know what? A lot of people don't really know how to take the mock tests properly. So you took the exam online or offline?
I took it offline on the test center.
Offline. Okay, okay.
Yes.
So of course we'll talk about your mock
Hmm.
tests as well. But let's talk about like what exactly you used
Hmm.
in the GMAT Club forms to help you with your
Yes.
prep. So what else, how did you, check, okay, which questions to choose,
Hmm.
and what other resources you used, to
Hmm.
help with your preparation? Let us know about it.
Yeah. So I'll start with quant. Quant,
Mm-hmm.
I think what like coming from an engineering, I think we always have a bias that we think we know maths, but
Yeah,
when we turn to the exam, we realize that we don't. There are still gaps, and
yeah.
there are topics I hated because I was always very scared of it. I not say hate, I'd say scared. That's like probability
Mm-hmm.
was something I was scared with. Speed work is something I was scared with. So
Mm-hmm.
GMAT Club has this thing called Forum Quiz. I think the last 2 months is what I did. Definitely, that's one of the best resources out there, I believe. So Forum Quiz is where I just set a quant set where I decide, okay, these two topics I will practice. I would set 21 questions, 42 minutes or 45 minutes. I do them. If I take topic wise every question, I know that in this topic, I know this is missing, this is not. And once you do topic wise quants, you'll realize and you fill all of those gaps. Then you'll come
Mm-hmm.
at the point where you know that the only mistakes you're making are silly mistakes. There's no conceptual gap. So till I reached
Correct.
a point for that for every topic mentioned in GMAT Club, that's where it helped me. As
Mm.
for verbal, the same. So I had this routine where every morning I do a verbal set, which is 10 CRs and 4 RCs. Every evening I would do a 21 question of quant, and thus
Mm.
I kind of gave half a mock every day, and this was all using Forum Quiz, and this was after I had completed all my official questions. So once I had completed all my official questions from my official guide, and I knew that I know all the concepts out there, this is where when I came to Forum Quiz, I knew most of the concepts were already there, but there were few gaps which I could
Mm-hmm.
fill. And yeah, there were a lot of filters on the sources as well, which helped
Correct.
me determine and clear out the right way. So that's what I did every day and every night. And on the weekends, I took the mock and then I analyzed. And data insights, I believe it just gets better. The official questions are more than enough for practicing. And every mock
Mm-hmm.
is itself another practice for data insights. And the more content verbal you do, your data insights, I've seen it gradually improving just with my content verbal without any extra effort. It's just
Mm.
that, I don't think people should start with data insights. They should always focus on content verbal. That's what worked for
Rebel
me.
first.
So yeah,
Mm.
and in GMAT Club, I'd say I definitely want to call out GMAT Ninja has amazing videos in the GMAT Club. Then even sessions around like even Aditya Kumar, Marty, and Scott from TTP. They have all have these small seminars and sessions which I've held across. I've seen like a lot. I believe I spend a lot of time in this YouTube channel. So I just
And now you're part of it.
yeah, so I'm happy to give back in any way possible. But definitely, I believe the plethora of resources out there is more than sufficient for you to cover up
True.
everything. And the test day mindset matters the most. And yeah, I believe the exam is very tricky. It's not like you'll always get it right at the first time, but you just have to hang
Mm.
in there, make sure the stick to the process, and yeah, that's what worked for
Awesome.
me as of now.
FYI, guys, all of the video resources that like Vatsal used for his preparation, we have a link in the description. I think it's the first link where you'll see all of the videos that of course, he used for his prep. So go ahead, check that out. But before you go and do that, of course, keep listening. There's a lot more interesting stuff to hear. Okay, so you said that you used a forum quiz. Did you also filter out like the different levels of like the
Yes.
level of quest difficulty, or you kind of randomized everything and just, you know, solved on
So
whim?
the first time I practiced, I did easy to medium level difficulty questions, so that
Okay.
I made sure my concepts were ready. Then,
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes I just targeted hard. So there was a point
Mm.
I think in my second mock when I realized that I scored a quant 84 and it was like three very silly mistakes. I realized the questions were easy, the mistakes were very silly. So then what I did
Mm.
was for the next entire week, I just did easy and medium questions and made sure that I took all of them right. I didn't make any silly mistake.
Yeah.
So that's how difficulties helped me, analyze my mock and practice accordingly to cover all those
Mm-hmm.
gaps. So it was a very
Mm-hmm.
dynamic process, but I definitely used all the filters, and I'd recommend that to
Mm.
anyone out there practicing that first complete your official questions, then come to forum quiz to fill out your gaps, give your official mocks, and all of this will tell you exactly where you need to work. and that's where you need to
Hmm.
look. Yeah.
And I'm sure the error log feature also must have been helpful, right? Especially
Yes.
just to see where you're going wrong and where you're
Hmm.
going. So how did you
Correct.
use the error log for your prep?
So as for the error log, I believe I used bookmark a lot. Like I used to make sure that
Hmm.
questions which were like a little bit tricky, I used to bookmark. As for error log, I could there's a lot of explanations for same question doing again like in different ways. So error log is where I visited the questions I did wrong, and generally those were the questions which I took 10 minutes and still couldn't get it right. And I saw some explanations where just 2 3 steps and you get the answer right.
Hmm.
That one way I use Datadog is like sometimes I would just select whatever the questions I did wrong in the
Hmm.
filter, and I just practice those. So I knew that these questions I had done wrong. I know I've read the solutions. Now I just need to make sure I've remembered all the right ways to solve the questions. So that's how
Hmm.
I tackled the things I went wrong with. But mainly, error log helped me determine which topics were weak for me, like word and rate and probability were
Hmm.
weak. So that's where I did a
Hmm.
50 set question and made sure I closed all the gaps. So that's
Makes
how I
sense.
leveraged the error log and bookmarks.
Makes sense. Awesome. Okay. Okay. So that was on Airlog and the form quiz. And
Mm,
of course, you also mentioned that you had a lot of videos to help you on our
yes.
channel. Let's talk a little bit now about like each section.
Mm,
So we do have like some questions.
yes.
Someone said, my data insights is always the issue, nearly 40th
Mm,
percentile. How would you improve that just using the GMAT Club
mm.
resources?
So data insights is tricky. There's 20 questions, and I think the only thing you have to master is timing. Two things
Mm-hmm.
I'd suggest. Firstly, make sure you never skip a question in data insights. You can
Mm-hmm.
guess, move on, but the penalty of missing a question is very hard. I've given all the
Mm-hmm.
official marks, and it's very tricky. To improve data insights, I must say you need to be very cautious of which questions you want to do. I think it's almost very difficult to complete all the questions. You might have to take a call in one or two where you're like, okay, this is hard. I know this will take time, and I think I can do much better than others. So you guess a
Mm-hmm.
question and you move forward. If you get the time, you come back. So there were times
Mm-hmm.
where I took those calls. I got time to come back. There were times when I didn't get time to come back. But it has
Mm-hmm.
data insights has a lot of freedom in terms of scoring. That if you can do a 2 or 3 mistakes and still the score doesn't fall a lot. Like it's 4 and 5 mistakes
Mhm,
or later than that it falls a lot. So I'd
mhm, mhm,
suggest don't practice data insights as such. Practice quant and verbal, and take graphs. So just do the official questions so that you are familiar with all the type of graphs and tables, just to know that you don't get surprised by anything new. One thing I feel
mm,
people are very scared in data insight is MSR. There's a lot of tips
mhm,
around how to do MSR right. I believe there's only one right way, and like at least that worked for me, was read it through, know what information is there, only then tackle the question, and realize again that if it's too tricky, you can always move on. And there's some things like that there will be at max, like know about what's coming your way. Like I know that at max there'll be 2 sets of MSRs. I know what the
mhm,
question distribution is, so I'll be ready. That if I didn't get data sufficiency right now, I know my last few questions might be data sufficiency. So
mhm,
knowing the exam and giving the official marks actually helped me realize, okay, what questions are remaining, and just
mm.
tick and move on instead of. I think what I started with was I took a lot of time on each questions. I got attached to the questions, but data insights is where you have to tick and move on, and that would, I think, significantly help boost your course.
Awesome. Okay. And another question we got was
Mm,
regarding reading comprehension and verbal.
yeah.
So you did say that quant was, of course, easier. A lot of
Mm,
students who take up computer science
mm,
or engineering, like typically you
mm,
guys are good in quant, which is
yeah.
well known. But you were quite weak in verbal, right? So
Yes.
how did you tackle both critical reasoning
Mm,
and reading comp?
yes. So I believe definitely first going through the videos, just know what are the question types out there. Like for reading
Mm-hmm.
comprehension, they ask you what's the main passage, what's the inference and all. So try
Mm-hmm.
to go with the process. So my simple process for reading comprehension tip is read every paragraph. As soon as you finish reading, just quick note on your mind that, okay, this is what it means and this is the reason it's written. Next paragraph, next paragraph. I spend a little more time reading and my question speed was fast. So like if you understand the paragraph, unless it's an inference question, you generally can just tick and move on. What helped
Mm-hmm.
me in reading comprehension definitely was that there is LSAT questions as well, in different forums. So I went ahead and I did those. I'll not suggest that they are the right way or they are the wrong way. LSAT is just very hard passages. So once I started reading
Mm-hmm.
those passages, then I started reading GMAT passages. It felt a little easier to me. So it helps in your
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind that if you do something hard, the easier thing feels like much easy. And once that came into picture, I could move fast. For critical
Mm-hmm.
reasoning, I think doing more question helps. I know it's not like it might oppose some of the opinions here, but for me, the more questions I did, then I realized that okay, now I see a question, I know that this can be the answer to it. Like I find a pattern that I
Mm-hmm.
know this might weaken it, and I see the option, I take and I move on. One thing that worked against me in the first few mocks was again the same thing that happened in data insights. I get attached to questions. Verbal, I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, honestly, data insights was much more easily time manageable than verbal. 23 questions in 45 minutes is not a joke in verbal, especially for
Mm-hmm.
like, even I do read books, I don't think I was not very fast at it. That's where I believe just clicking and moving on, clicking and moving on, not second guessing yourself. You don't have time to second guess yourself. You don't have time to keep reading the options. If you feel
Mm-hmm.
something is hard, maybe it's a hard question. If it's a hard question, it will not affect your score as much. And that philosophy I followed for my last three mocks. In all those three mocks, I got a 84, 85, 86 in verbal. And then I realized that, okay,
Mm.
this works, this can help. And that's what I'd stick to.
Makes sense. Okay. And in terms of the resources for verbal, like a
Mm,
lot of people use
mm,
different books to cover the
mm,
basics. What did you do
mm.
to cover your basics? Was it just purely practicing questions and videos
Yes.
or something else?
Yeah, so I believe there's a great playlist by GMAT Ninja. They like, and I see that there's a lot of playlists where they like, this is how you solve a assumption question, this is how you solve a weekend
Mm-hmm.
question. GMAT Ninja's playlist, I believe, in the GMAT Club was about what are the things you do wrong and how you can avoid
Mm-hmm.
it. Because there, like, I know there are five, six set of type of questions, but there are infinitely more options available. But the
Mm-hmm.
more, like, at the end of the day, it's all about reasoning. Just try to, for verbal and especially for critical reasoning, what helped me was I just try to visualize. So if there's a status, like there's a question where someone is running down the slide, I'd imagine myself running down the slide, and immediately, like, that visualization helped me tackle it very fast. So yeah, no
Mm-hmm.
extra resources as such. I sometimes I just do topic wise, like I had to strengthen or weaken questions only to make sure I'm getting them right. And there
Yeah.
is, I think, official questions have a lot of good questions on the official guide, and
Mm-hmm.
just going through them and like convincing yourself of that or why the right answer is the right answer. Once you have done that for enough questions, I think that should be sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did you use any, so like you said, did you only stick
Mm,
to official questions or you tried
mm,
questions from other platforms as
I did.
well?
I
Okay,
did.
you
So
did.
as I said, I mentioned for the first 2 months, I did all the officials. And then
Mm-hmm.
every week, every morning, I gave a verbal set where I would do LSAT questions or anything. In the forum quiz, I would just select random. I'd select 10 CR, 4 RC, whatever comes my way, comes
Mm-hmm.
my way. I just needed to make sure I was reading fast enough. And even if I'm doing questions wrong, can I convince myself why that answer was wrong or why the other answer was right? And after
Mm-hmm.
doing all of that, when I gave the mocks felt much easier than the forum quiz because in general the pa- expressions are much tougher in the forum, like I just had questions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think I completed official questions and then the only official questions I did was in the mocks. And as long as I felt that okay, I could understand why I did things wrong, I believe I was okay. It was only when I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
understand why I did wrong is where the problem lies, but that didn't happen, and that's when this confidence
Yeah.
starts building.
That's a very important thing. A lot of students who are preparing for the GMAT, what they do is they take the
Mm,
question. They're like, oh, okay, I got it wrong. I think maybe this was the reason, and then they move
mm.
on to the next question.
Yes.
That way, you sort of finish off all of the questions that is even
Mm,
available in the form to
yes.
begin with, and then you're like, oh my God, I don't have any more questions to solve, which is should not be the case. You should
Yes.
obviously check why you got this wrong, like,
Mm,
and know exactly the reason. I think when you know
mm.
what the exact reason is, that's when you are able to solve
Correct.
things much better. And any type of questions in verbal that were difficult for you, or it was more of
Uh,
like
no, no, it
different
was
stuff?
more about timing for me. I believe
Ah, okay.
every time I could get a new type of question wrong, and it was all about like the time pressure I had at that moment. If I had enough time, I think I could get it right. So for
Mm-hmm.
verbal, it was mainly about time taking, and that's where actually I'll tell you something external to GMAT. What I did is that for the last 2 months I realized that in verbal I think many people might relate to me. You read a passage and then again your brain floats away and then you again read the passage. And that happens
Yeah.
a lot and it's frustrating. So that's when I started, for the last 2 months, I started meditating every day. And then I also,
Mm.
it's not recommended maybe, but I also quit social media as well for some time
Ooh,
because I had work
that's good.
and I had this. So anything new would be like, another distraction in my life. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
how much it helped. I can't comment on it, but it definitely made my subconscious believe that I'm doing everything I can. So now, like everything in my power, I can do. And meditation is something I'm still continuing today, even after the exam, because
Mm-hmm.
that's something that really helps. So anyone out there facing that focus drifting away, I said just try mindfulness. It really helps.
Yeah, and I think this that what you just said answers this question perfectly. Where some days you
Uh,
feel fresh, you
uh,
read better and faster, and the
uh,
other days you don't. So
you just don't.
with the meditation must have
Yeah.
helped you tackle that
Definitely,
completely.
definitely it. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so we covered the sectional scores.
Mm,
Now I think let's dive into oh yeah, for quant, was there anything specific that was difficult to
yes.
tackle or quant was easy for you?
See, as I said, it feels like we know quant, but we don't. At least that was true for me. I felt like
Yeah.
I knew quant, then I did. And GMAT Focus especially is very strict on quant. You need to make sure
Mm,
you don't do any easy question, right? There were mocks where I gave where a couple of questions and my score went instead of 90, I got an 82 just for two questions
mm,
wrong because they were an easy question. And similarly, if you do a hard question wrong, it's like, and the accuracy is very tight in terms of quant. So I needed to
mm,
make sure that I know all the concepts and I don't mess up any easy or medium questions. And that's where I think I practiced the most practice I did was of quant, not of verbal, not of data
mm,
insights. The most practice I did was of quant. I solved every day like 20, 30 questions and the mocks as well. Topic wise practice is the answer to quant. Take every topic, finish all the like two, 20, 30 questions. And that's when you
mm,
know that you're confident, make notes, know that if this topic comes, will I be scared or will I be ready to take on it? If you feel you're scared of a topic, do it till the day you are not scared. And that's where,
mm,
and yeah, and I believe quant plays a very significant role in terms of doing an easy question wrong. As I said, the algorithm is very brutal in that way, I believe. So I was very scared
mm,
of messing that up. And yeah, so luckily I got a hard
awesome.
question wrong, I believe. That's why I got an 88. But yeah,
Mm.
so that's what
Of
I'd
course,
suggest
we'll
to all.
dive into the actual test day
Yeah.
experience and what all you learned from it. But before we continue, guys, I'm seeing a lot of you are watching this live session, but none of you guys are liking the video. So go ahead, like this video. It helps, this video to reach a larger audience, especially if you want to help your fellow GMAT Club study buddies out there. Like this video and also subscribe to our channel if you still haven't. Okay, someone here asked as well, how did you increase the speed of CR reading?
The speed of CR reading, again, I believe quite practicing more definitely helped, but visualizing helped. So I don't think I increased
Mm-hmm.
the speed of reading. My speed of reading is still the same. My comprehension speed increased. Like I had this problem where I had to keep read and read till I get it right. Now it feels like I read it slowly. I read a line, I read it slowly, and I have imagined myself in that situation. So now I never have to read it again. So that is what
Mm-hmm.
helps. So I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I actually got slower in reading, but I comprehended it in one go, and that significantly reduced my time. Like my average CR time was 2.25 minutes when I started. At the end, it was about 1.5 minutes, just because of visualization. So
Mm-hmm.
that I think that's what worked for me.
Awesome. Okay. So now I think we've covered most of the
Mm,
sectional stuff.
mm,
Let's talk about like your schedule. So you said you
yes,
had a full-time job. How did
yes,
you manage your studies with
yeah.
your job? What was your
It's
schedule
not
like?
easy, I must say.
Of course.
Definitely, but but yeah, I had this routine like I'd wake up at early 7 to 9. I'd do a verbal set. Then I'd have my whole work day. At the end of the work day, I know that there would be at least 2 hours where I wouldn't have work. So those 2 hours I would block for my quant, and that's what was my fixed schedule for every weekday for the last 2 months. First 2 hours of
Mm-hmm.
the day verbal, doing a set, checking what went wrong. Last next 2 hours quant, that is during the end of the day. So and other part of the day went for working. So then I had weekends. In the weekends, I had the routine where Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday is when I would just see what are the notes I made. Again, do only
Mm-hmm.
those 40 questions and a set of DI as well, maybe. Some official questions were remaining, so I had to complete that. And Sunday was always my mock day, where in the early morning I would give a mock,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire second half I would analyze. And then at night of Sunday, I would plan, okay, these are the things I need to work on. And I made a plan for the next week, that how would I use my first 2 hours and last 2 hours of the day. And that kind of repeated every week for the last 2 months. Even in fact, till one day before the exam, where I would like 2 days before the exam, I followed the same routine. And I did that
Mm-hmm.
because every Sunday I gave a mock. So the day before my official exam also felt like the same. And then I went to the
Mm-hmm.
exam, and I read it somewhere that don't do anything different on your last day. Do it
That's
like it's
true.
another mock. If you do it
That's
that
true.
way, you'll probably score similar to your mock. So yeah,
Yeah, because a day or
yeah,
2 days of prep won't change anything. I think
yeah,
that's the main reason why. So, if you think that, oh my
mm,
God, last day before I
yeah,
take my exam, this is not the school stuff where
yeah.
like memorize
Fill it
half
all
the
off.
thing and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna score perfectly. No, it does not work that
Yeah,
way. GMAT is
exactly.
definitely a different type of exam.
Uh,
Awesome. Okay, so it was, I think, mainly discipline and how you just stick to the right schedule. You had that
yes.
whole mindset ready that okay, this is exactly the same thing, nothing
Mm,
new. And I
yeah,
think that's also the reason why you got such a great score, right?
thank you.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Okay. So that was on in terms of your schedule. Did you even have time to hang out, do anything other than study and work? Because the way you
No, no,
mentioned this, you're like, okay, Saturday this, Sunday that. When did you have
I,
time for yourself?
So I think I have I did like the last month definitely. It was very restrictive to this, but the
Mm-hmm.
1 month before that, I was still open to. There were birthdays. I had friends. I had work friends as well. So I would like once a week I might give myself, okay, that today I'll take a rest. It's okay. So there were
Mm-hmm.
some days, like I think maybe 4 to 5 days in the month, where I would take that gap. It
Mm-hmm.
felt guilty, to be very honest, but it also refreshes your mind, so it's necessary as well. It's like, I know when I
Mm-hmm.
gave my last time when I gave my old edition, I cut off everything and I gave in. So when I didn't get the score, it felt very disheartening as well. And I realized that this time I didn't want to do it. I went with the mindset that okay, I'm giving this, I'll feel like a mock. If it doesn't go well, I can always give again. That's the best part about GMAT, but I
Mm-hmm.
really hope it doesn't happen. So that's like, I did have a social life to some extent. I gave myself some freedom, like, give yourself a birthday gift in a way. But yeah, like in the last month is where you can't, like last month is where you have to just be like, this is the last clutch moment. And then as long as it doesn't affect you mentally and you can, like, maintain the discipline, the best.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
were you mentally prepared that, okay, this might be the only exam I'm gonna take, I won't
Mm.
take any more? Or did you take the
Mm.
test in the mindset that maybe if I mess up, I'll take this again?
Oh, I had decided my next attempt date as well. I was sure that I'd take
Oh,
a new
really?
one. I tried to convince myself. I was praying very hard I don't have to do that. But I
Of
prepared
course.
myself, and I am a person who takes a lot of exam pressure. I had like, I
Mm,
have a lot of test anxiety. That mindset actually helped me treating it just like a mock. There was obviously test
mhm,
anxiety, but because I had that in my mind that okay, this is another mock. I'm actually giving it 20 days later. That helped me
mhm.
take the pressure off a bit, and maybe that's when I could perform my best.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of you actually have a
Mm.
Reddit post where you put up your entire
Yes.
debrief. For those who want to check that out, we'll
Mm.
of course link it in the description.
Mm.
But what were some of the key insights? I know you mentioned some
Mm.
of them already in the
Mm.
answers that you were giving.
Yes.
But any other key insights when it came to
Mm.
your prep that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Definitely, as I mentioned before, I can't stress this enough that quant is very brutal. I'll just say
Mm-hmm.
that if you just make sure you get the easy and medium question right, and not just one, that goes for the entire session. You,
Mm-hmm.
I've read across that if you do three wrong, you'll get this score. You get two wrong, you'll get the score. I've gotten a range of mistakes on the official mocks, and I've gotten a range of marks for them. You cannot predict
Mm-hmm.
it. That's It's simple. If you do an easy or a medium question wrong, your score will take a hit. If you do a hard question wrong, it will not take a hit. So
Mm-hmm.
if you see yourself taking some time and you realize this is a hard question and you don't have time, skip it. First, the most important insight: don't do easy,
Mm-hmm.
medium, wrong. hard questions, if it feels like it's taking your time, skip it. You can always come back to it. Sec-
Mm,
my second biggest insight is that don't get attached to any question. Like
mm,
I know that I see a graph, I'm like, why can't I understand this graph? It's okay, move on. You have 19 more questions
mm,
to go, and that's okay to do that. Then yeah, I think official mocks do it in the right order. Don't do all six together. Don't take it when you are not very prepared. Time it well so that
mm,
after every mock you have enough time to analyze and learn more from it. That would be my third insight.
mm.
Uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it mostly. And
Yeah. I think there was one
anything
more
comes to
point.
mind, I'll definitely share
I
first.
have I have your
Yeah,
Reddit post on the side, so I'm like
yeah,
reading side
yeah.
by side.
Please call
Where
it out,
I
and I'll just elaborate more.
yeah, you said you also noticed like a consistent verbal pattern,
Yes,
right?
so I realized a pattern, and that helps a lot, both in verbal
Mm-hmm.
and in DI. That you will never get continuous RCs, or you will never get a lot of continuous CRs. Again,
Mm-hmm.
this might be wrong or right. I've just given few mocks in the official exam, and I've seen that you get 2 or 3 CRs, then you get an RC, then you get CRs, then you get RC. You know, after an RC, another RC won't hit you. That
Mm-hmm.
helps me in a way be like, it nothing will surprise me because I know what's coming. Similarly for DI in MSR, if there's one MSR, it will be like around fourth or fifth question. You have 3 question
Mm-hmm.
sets. If there are two MSRs, one is around fourth, fifth, another one is 10th and 11th. And
Mm-hmm.
all of these I could learn because every mock I would realize what was happening and I could see a pattern. And even if it wasn't the pattern, I just felt that okay, I was ready. I know what's coming for me, and that helped a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm.
that's where maybe try it out. Maybe if that helps you, that you know that okay, yeah, you're done with an RC. You know 2 CRs are coming. So if your CR is strong, you don't have enough time. Guess the RC and move to CR. And one important thing I
Mm-hmm.
would say is don't don't miss any question. So there's a very tricky thing
Mm-hmm.
actually. That suppose if you have 30 seconds remaining, you are on your last question. If you select the answer, you click on submit and you don't click on OK. The last question basically goes as doesn't get registered. You have to click an OK to finally
Mm-hmm.
get registered. And if you miss any question, like if you don't submit any question, the algorithm is very brutal. As I said, that it's better to do 5 wrongs than to guess about 4 like answers, like
Mm-hmm.
miss 4 answers. So just make
Mm-hmm.
sure that make sure you submit all of them. Maybe if you have 30 seconds, guess, submit, you can always come back and do it. But if you make
Mm-hmm.
that mistake, it might lead to another attempt. So yeah, these are the few things I
Mm-hmm.
learned by making a lot of mistakes in my mocks, getting a wide range of scores, and yeah, be ready
Mm-hmm.
for a range of scores because it's very tricky. Just be in the mindset that if you have gotten a couple of times the scores you want, you might get it on the official, maybe not on
Mm-hmm.
the first, maybe on the second. Just stay persistent and yeah, uh, I hope it works out well for everyone.
Now that we've finally, I think, covered most of your whole GMAT prep, we haven't
Yeah.
really talked much about your mock exams. So,
Yes.
what was your scores like? You said you took
Hmm.
7 mocks and 8 was
Yeah.
your test. So, did you take any other mocks other than the official ones? Just let us know.
Yes. So I took about 6 official and 1 unofficial mock. So my
Okay.
first three, I took first, second, third
Mm-hmm.
mock, then I did my fourth, then I did first repeat and a second repeat. So I
Mm-hmm.
had done all 6. So I think it was first, second, first repeat, second repeat, third and fourth. That way. So
Mm-hmm.
that my last 2 mocks aren't something which is a repeat. My first 3 mocks were during my earlier part of prep. First 3 were like 665, 675, 685. I could see a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of jump and do that. Then I took the first unofficial one. I think it was one of the festivities on GMAT Club. They had offered one free mock test on that day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I first scored my 695, which was my goal score. So yeah,
Mm.
it really helped me boost my confidence that day. And then
Awesome.
I scored like 745, 725, and 675. Again, a very wide range
Mm-hmm.
of spectrum. Surprisingly, my final score is my average of my last 3 scores. My last score was a little disheartening, but I realized I knew what things I did wrong and I knew the strategies I
Mm-hmm.
was using. I was a little more concerned. But yeah, the tips I mentioned and that will attach me to this link. I'd say please go ahead. All these things I had done after a lot of analysis, and this
Mm-hmm.
really helped me figure out my game plan for the D-Day. And yeah, hope it helps
Mm.
everyone.
I like that even when it came to mock tests for GMAT Club, you utilized our free
Yeah.
testing. So
I,
I mean, for those of y'all who don't know, like whenever there's a major holiday, GMAT Club gives out their tests for free for the entire day, and a lot of people don't utilize this. So you're very smart for doing that. Good job. But you never ended up buying
no,
the
I the
GMAT
only
Club
thing I
test.
bought was an official guide and a 4 rupee subscription. And yeah, I think I thank GMAT Club for saving me a lot of money, I must say.
Of
Mm.
course, of course. And I think those are the tools you need. I remember even when I
Mm.
was studying for the GMAT Club,
Uh,
like forum quiz was like the golden thing for me. And I was surprised how a lot of people don't know about this feature. I was like, how can you? This is like the perfect feature you can find for your GMAT prep. Um, so
I'll
very
agree.
smart way of studying. Kudos to that. But yeah, other than all of this, one thing I forgot to ask you was in terms of like your business school
Mm.
MBA prep.
Mm.
Did you do that side by side with your GMAT prep, or you are planning to maybe apply to next year and you're like,
Uh,
okay, let me get my GMAT done first and then do the rest?
yes. So actually, I just have 2.5 years of experience. I know it's not sufficient
Mm,
as of now, and I do plan to go anytime soon, maybe a year or a couple of years later.
okay.
I knew like last year itself, I always had this mandate. I want to do an MBA abroad, like outside in the
Mm-hmm.
US states. And I knew GMAT is one hurdle which generally people do at that time, and there's a lot of other things going on. I always wanted to
Correct.
keep it out of the way. And the great thing about it is valid for 5 years. So I
Mm,
don't plan to apply anytime soon. And that's one factor I think I have in my favor where I had a lot of time in the world where I didn't have to tackle
mm-hmm.
other problems. So yeah, that actually helped me a lot. But I can understand how struggling it can be for people doing both at the same time
Yeah.
with work. It's almost insane to think
Yeah.
about
And that's very smart that you actually managed to
it.
finish it. And a lot of even
Mm,
consultants that like I have
mm,
live sessions with, they always mention that like this is the biggest hurdle. So get rid
mm,
of that first, and
mm,
then focus on the rest. But obviously, not everyone has the time
mm,
to, do this GMAT the way you did. Some people
mm,
are like, okay, this year I want to apply for an MBA,
mm.
so this is the checklist, and they have to
Yes,
finish everything in 3 4 months. So
correct.
very smart that you did things beforehand. Okay. Someone here also asked, did you use GMAT Club's focus sectional tests? I
Uh,
assume no.
no, I didn't do.
You did not. Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sad. You should have maybe. Who knows? You would have
Would have
scored
been
maybe more
doing
than
well
10,
enough.
15.
I think I'm
Focus is
satisfied as of
yeah, but you're not planning on appearing for the test again, I presume. I
no,
think
no,
this is
no, no. I
well
can't. I
above
can't mentally handle
your
it. I
goal.
think at this point.
Yeah, it's really draining. Not gonna lie.
Yes.
I mean, of course, you know you took it thrice. Okay, awesome. So this was now the whole prep journey. For those of y'all who are having your questions, I can see in the comments. I think we already mentioned some of the stuff, so you guys can, go back and see some of the answers. And if not, if I'm missing anything, guys, feel free to actually reach out to Vatsal. Vatsal, you
Yes.
said that you'll let everyone know how they can reach out
Yeah.
to you, so just let them know.
Yeah, I'll definitely attach my LinkedIn. It's Vatsal Khimani is my full name. I'll put a LinkedIn description in the comments as well, and you can message me there as well. And I also have a account in GMAT Club, so you can directly message me there as well, and I'll definitely try and reply to as many as possible.
Awesome. And yeah, and if any of you guys are appearing for the GMAT exam and you would love to share your story, DM us on Instagram. I feel like you guys don't DM us much on Instagram when you guys should. I see a lot of DMs in terms of questions, but Vatsal's was very unique. Thanks for reaching out to us there. That was really kind of you. But yeah, okay, awesome. So that was GMAT prep. That was your mock
Mm,
test. And now let's go to your like actual test day.
yeah,
How was that
mm,
like? What did you do
yeah,
2 days prior, and what did you do?
mm,
What time did you
mm,
take the exam? How was the
mm,
whole experience? Let us know.
yes. Yeah. So I had the habit of waking up at 7 a.m. and doing all my studies. I know the right time would be 7 a.m. for giving. Like you should always try to book at that time. I didn't get a slot then, and I knew that any slot I would get later on might not work out. So I did an exam at 12:30 p.m. So my last week
Mm-hmm.
of preparation had an additional step. I had to change my sleep cycle to make sure I'm waking up at 9 a.m. because I have an exam at 12. I can't have like 6 7 hours. Like it's how I function, that I function best when I just woke up and couple of hours later I have an exam. So that was
Mhm.
my first cycle. But yeah, my exam day, I took a couple of days off from work. So last 2 days it
Mhm.
was till my 3 days before the exam, I was as to my routine, verbal set, work day, quant set. Last 2 days,
Mhm.
it was just about doing the same, but as well as just revising the notes, figuring out if I'm still scared, looking at those, looking
Mhm.
at my bookmarks to see where I go wrong. So I have notes.
Mhm.
I have a specific note area where I just wrote, Vatsal, these are your silly mistakes. Where I'll just write 1 to the power 2 is 2, like very silly mistakes. And I
Mhm.
just note it down and realize that, okay, this I cannot do tomorrow. So I was just going through
Mhm.
them. I didn't want to do anything different. I like many people say, don't study before the exam day. I did. I did the same quant verbal set, and I went ahead into the exam day. The exam day, I woke. It's difficult to sleep, but I somehow managed to get a 7 8 hours of sleep. So I was happy. Woke up, made myself some coffee, went on the exam center. I reached early, so I started. Okay, I was like, I just want to get done with it. I can't. If I think
Mhm.
about it, I'll get anxious, and I'm generally a very test anxious person. I went ahead. I was like, Vassal, this is a mock. You can do it. You have the main
Yeah.
exam is 20 days later, not today. This is just a mock. I just kept telling
Mhm.
myself. I went ahead. I started. My order was I did verbal, quant, break, data insights. So when as soon as I started verbal, I felt it was going good, but I was also very scared. At the end of verbal, I was getting like I was not sure if I'm doing the right answer. I was just hoping that okay, this is right. I just
Mhm.
go on, move on. Like that, I was trying not to get attached. I finished on time. I felt quant was much harder for me. Maybe because I think my verbal score was highest than any other mocks. Like I got an 86 in verbal. Till now, my mocks was highest 85. I don't know how
Oh,
adaptive
okay.
it is. And the question, like I think 1 or 2 questions hit me up at quant. I think generally the actual exam is very similar to mocks. I don't think there's a big difference.
Mhm.
It's just that because maybe I was coding a little better in core verbal, I got a little harder questions. In terms of quant, I think couple of questions I spent a lot of time. I think I got one of them wrong
Mhm.
because and that's 88 and 88 signifies it was a very hard question and I think I wasted a lot of time on that. But it's okay. I couldn't revise anything. In generally mocks, I could get time to revise my quant question, but I did
Mhm.
my one mistake is I got attached to a question and then in the break I realized that okay my quant was hard. So I just hope that my verbal went well and quant went well. I just needed to make
Mhm.
sure I don't do very bad in DI. I just do how much I did in mock and I should get a 695 is what my aim was. So then I started
Mhm.
DI. I think, yeah, DI was smooth sailing. There was always time critical, but I was so scared to be short on time that I finished DI 1 minute before. And then that last
Oh,
minute, I was at a point where I was like, can I go and check something? But I was scared I'd make some mistake in that rush zone. So
yeah.
I took that 1 minute, I submitted it. It takes 15 to 20 seconds to load the score. I didn't take a breath during that. I was just paused. I saw the score. I just wanted to shout that, okay, finally I'm done because it was like 1.5 years of pain in a way,
Of
broken apart, but
course.
still. So I just quietly walked off out of the center, went down, and then I just screamed once out, like much far away from the test center, so it doesn't disturb anybody. But yeah, I think that was the pain relief I experienced
Awesome. And this was test center where? Which location did you
in Hyderabad.
um
And there's a
in
PSN test center in
Hyderabad?
Hyderabad, amazing center. Yeah,
Amazing center. Okay, awesome.
yeah,
Okay, and was there also any reason why you took verbal first? Is that how you always took the test,
yes.
or
I
you had a particular reasoning?
So I always do it. I know my quant is something where I don't need a lot of brain. It's more like if you have
Mm-hmm.
practiced enough, you know that you'll go it with the flow. Verbal is where you need the most like sharp mind at the point. So you go on with verbal. As soon as verbal ends, my brain is always fried. But quant
Mm-hmm.
generally starts with easy questions, and that's when I can get the time to come back. And yeah,
Yeah.
data insights has a mix of so much comprehension and quant. I definitely needed a break before that to tackle it. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
always done that. I decided this before my first mock also. All my mocks I did this only. It worked out well for me. So it
Mm-hmm.
depends from person to
Mm-hmm.
person. I'd suggest start with something which get scared of the most, uh, because that's where you need a fresh mind. And second set should be something which comes easy to you, and then take a
Yeah.
break because like doing one and then break and two, I think you already have a big break and then you start. So that's
Mm-hmm.
again, that's something that worked for me. I don't know, it doesn't work. Everyone just do mocks in all possible orders. See what actually made work for you, and yeah,
Correct.
utilize the official mocks is what I definitely recommend.
Awesome. And I mean, that I think covers like your whole journey, right? And
Yeah.
again, for those who have more questions, Vatsal's post is up on Reddit, on our forum. You can also reach out to him on LinkedIn and ask more questions. But this was the gist of it. And I think I'll just bring up maybe a few questions in the comments that
Mm,
we skipped. So let me see. So someone here is saying, let's say I'm basic at quant, say I have
mm,
knowledge till 10th grade,
mm.
CBSE, as Vatsal would
Yes.
know. What would the
Mm.
best prep format be for someone like me, and in how much time period should I plan on taking the test?
See, basics at once, it's like 10th is enough, I believe. 10th,
Yeah.
that's the, like, I don't think there's a lot of syllabus in GMAT. It's more of a
Mm-hmm.
reasoning exam. It's more of finding the right way to solve it. I'd suggest for quant, there's a quant playlist of GMAT Ninja. There's a Crack Verbals Aditya Kumar's playlist. Both of them
Correct.
helped me a lot to get all my concepts clear. And after that, if you just do the forum quiz, you realize the small gaps you have. You cover those up. You do official questions, you cover those up. That should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
Time wise, I cannot
Mm-hmm.
comment. It depends on person to person. But definitely, if for me, it would take basically if I put 2 hours a day for a quant, maybe 2 months into
Mm-hmm.
it is when I would be ready for, I'd be done with official questions and preparation. I just need more practice. It depends on person to
Mm.
person, but that's the strategy I would use.
And I think there are some 11th grade or 12th grade concepts because even I
Yes.
studied till 10th math. So
Uh,
I remember if in quant there were like I think combinations. Shoot,
yes.
there's
PNC.
I took it long
Yeah.
time back, so I even forgot. But yeah,
Yeah.
PNC and whatnot. Those
Yes.
topics are not in 10th grade syllabus. So
Okay. Yeah. I
best is yeah,
actually, my apologies. I realized, but yeah, definitely there are 11, 12 as well. But I think probability combinations, those are the toughest two topics, I must say.
correct.
And maybe algebra quadratic equations, how good you are with it. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else is more about word problems, that can you understand what is written. I think the trickiest is if you can understand the word problem and put it into an equation, you have got it
Correct.
ready. But definitely, probably something I was not confident even the day before the exam. Like I would do 10 questions, I would do two wrong. But still,
Correct.
I believe, yeah, practice is what would make you just do enough questions to know you know the concepts, and
Mm-hmm.
then figure out the next steps ahead.
Makes sense. Let's go to the next one. Someone here
Hmm.
asked, what score was your minimum where you would retake if not for this?
For me, that my number was 685. Any
Mm-hmm.
685 or below is something where I would accept it because I think it's a great score. It's just that I aim to hopefully get some amount of scholarship if possible, and I still have a lot. I still have 2 more years into the future, so I don't have to work on my applications. So I have a time where I
Mm-hmm.
can optimize my GMAT, and that's where I decided that okay, if 695 or above is something that I would take and I would test GMAT for my MBA. Anything below that, I have time. So why not push myself and try to get to that value? So that was my
Correct.
golden number. It changes for everyone based on demographic and goals. But yeah, that was my golden number.
Mm-hmm. Someone here asked, what was your dream business school? I mean, I
Mm.
think you have not started your application process yet, but what
Yeah,
are
but
your
I've
dream business
definitely
schools?
researched. So I definitely look at the T15. That's something. I think in Europe, in SIAD and HEC Paris would be a couple of them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like other than that, the M7s in US. I don't have a very deep dive. I cannot say
Mm-hmm.
that, which is better, which is not. But I am currently in the tech field and I plan to maybe stay in that tech field, but just, learn a little bit more about other fields. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
currently I don't have the right answer for that, but definitely like M7 and NCR ATC is something on my mind as of
Yeah, I mean, guys, stay tuned. Maybe we'll have Vatsal join us
now.
again where he got admitted to one of those schools, and we're like, okay, how did he do that?
Hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Next question. How would you compare the GMAT Club mocks with the actual exam?
So GMAT Club Smoke, I took only one, as I said. I think Quant was tougher than the official mock, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely that tough. Like I had never scored a 90 in Quant till I gave the GMAT Club's official, and that's where I scored 88. And it boosted my confidence that if I know it was hard, and if I could score 88 here, then I could definitely score a 90 on the
Yeah.
official, and that was my aim. For verbal and AI, I think it was. I think for me, I didn't analyze much. I gave it actually that the day it came out was a work day for me. So I just came from work
Mm-hmm.
and at 7 p.m. I gave the mocks. I was not in my right state as well that I could analyze everything and all. But
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a good enough practice to practice your timings and your questions. But in terms of official mocks versus this, I didn't analyze in depth to actually give you the right answer there.
Okay, no problem. Okay, another one. At what point did you start working on your timing?
First 2 months is when I just made sure I completed all my concepts. I completed all the official questions I wanted. And then I gave my first mock. That's the point after which I started working on my time. So once you have your
Mm-hmm.
concepts ready, once you know that if given the time, you can do the questions right. Not all, like at 70, 80% questions you will do right given the time. That's when you start working on your timing. Till you are not there, first understand and learn the concept. Otherwise, you'll just make faster mistakes. But there will be mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
first improve
Mm-hmm.
that accuracy and then work on timing is what my recommendation.
Awesome. And I can see some
Yeah.
more questions,
Mm.
but we already covered them in this live session. So, guys, feel free to just go back, watch the whole thing again, and I hope that will answer your questions. So, this was awesome. Thank you so
Mm.
much, Vatsal, for doing this, for reaching out. Very, very helpful, especially to those who are currently studying. And again, as you mentioned, if anyone has questions, they can easily reach out to you. So, any last words for our GMAT Club audience?
No, last words. I think firstly, thank you so much for having me. I think GMAT Club YouTube is something I've prepared for last year as well as this year. So it's great to be here to help the people out here as well. I just
Awesome.
say that stay consistent, stay persistent. Don't, if you're scared of something, you have to go towards it, not away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And till you get like, I understand every person's situation is very different, but uh, don't get disheartened because the algorithm has a lot of range of scores. Just keep doing,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you'll find the score you're looking for. So all the best, everyone, and please feel free to reach out to me for any help.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in and asking your questions. This was amazing. All right, and now we'll end the stream.
Bye
Bye.
bye.